Hello, Miami. This is 305 Sports Now, your home podcast and channel for all things Miami sports related. I am Will, and today we have a little bit of a different show for all of you. It's not really that different because I've done this in the past, but I am gonna mix things up a little bit to give you the best of what I can give you as far as analytics and local broadcasting goes. If those of you have been with me since the beginning last year, when basically was all audio. I used to always do the Dolphins and Canes within the same episode whenever I uploaded on Anchor, Google, Spotify, and all that stuff. Because of my emergence on YouTube and so on, and the traction I've been getting, I kind of wanted to split a little bit of that in terms of my Dolphin coverage for one episode in comparison to my Canes coverage for another episode. So what I decided to do is now I'm just going to blend them again and see what you guys think, based on your comments, likes, subscriptions, etc. All right, so I'm going to start with the Miami Hurricanes as well, because guess what? The Miami Hurricanes did have a win on Saturday against their arch rival in the ACC, the Virginia Tech Hokies, but it was the most ugliest win, and it was one of the most complained about wins I have seen, when it comes to the online circuit. In particular, fans were not very happy as the Canes, honestly should have completely dominated VTech and should never have been as closely as it should have been. But I'm going to give you my perspective. You guys all know I'm a pretty pragmatic fan, or I call it like I see it. And I don't let, a lot of my emotions, get in the way of my analysis, because I want to give you guys the best of what I can offer as a YouTube slash podcasting broadcaster. I want to first talk about, the statistics, and I also want to go over TVD as well. It was a pass heavy, football game for the Miami Hurricanes. Josh Gaddis goes into two extremes. He either goes into way too run heavy, where we're complaining about that TVD never gets into a rhythm, to all of a sudden now they just don't want to run the ball anymore, and now all they're doing is just passing the football. All right, in this game, TVD had 46 attempts, completed 29 for 351 yards, 2 touchdowns, and no interceptions. The team in general running the football had 28 carries for only 107 yards rushing. To TVD's credit, though, he did deliver the football to 9 different receivers, right? Colby Young once again stands out, right, as becoming now a new favorite target for Tyler Van Dyke. And Young had 9 receptions for 110 yards for 1 touchdown. The big man is no longer a secret, all right? He is a guy that you will have to count for on defense if you want to make sure that he doesn't get his. Brashard Smith has emerged, all right, for the injured Xavier Restrepo. Brashard did back up Xavier in the slot, and a couple wonky, rocky games early on, but Brashard has stepped up a bit. 6 catches for 76 yards for the sophomore, all right? And then Frank Ladson gets into the end zone with 5 receptions, 58 yards, and 1 touchdown, all right? Going into Virginia Tech's Grant Wells really had his best performance in the fourth quarter, as the Miami Hurricanes defense did shut him down completely for most of the game. He had 21 receptions for, 33 attempts, 21 receptions, 179 yards passing with 1 touchdown. All right. And that's pretty much a little bit on Grant. That the running game was non-existent for Virginia Tech. My perspective is, listen, I know I'm going to get some flack for this, but the defense did do its job for most of the game, especially in 3 quarters. All right. The Miami Hurricanes defense did rack up 5 sacks against VTech. They did, Hakeem Mesidor was a beast. Okay. Mesidor had 3.5 sacks in the game. Corey Flagg had a solid game as well, once again, at the linebacker position for the Miami Hurricanes. The problem with the Miami Hurricanes, actually, I want to also add the Virginia Tech only had 78 yards rushing, and it took well within, I think, towards the end of the first quarter, early second quarter, for them to even get a first down, right? So Miami did dominate, the line of scrimmage as far as the defensive line goes for most of the game. The problem with this game is that it was untimely touchdowns. Okay, the touchdowns came in during a very bad time. All right, it was in the fourth quarter. The Canes went into the fourth quarter up 20-0, ended up winning the game 20-14. And Virginia Tech did feel like they had a chance to win this football game, it felt. And one of the touchdowns when Wells threw his touchdown pass over to Williams, in general, James Williams was out of position, okay? If you look at the way the defense was structured, it was a blitz, and Williams was supposed to take care of the running back if he were to leak out. Well, Williams was a tad bit late, getting out of position to go track down the tailback, and the tailback was able to get into the end zone, which led to, first of all, being 20-7, and then Grant Wells uses his legs to get into the end zone yet again. So there was a lot of mistakes on defense in the fourth quarter, even throughout the game. Okay, there were a lot of the Miami Hurricanes had 17 penalties for 159 yards, basically creating a situation that led to situations where you had long passing downs, all right, in which TVD had to play with, had to throw the ball to get first downs. And also you had ridiculous unsportsmanlike conducts in the game. One of them that really stood out was the Corey Couch. It did stop, Wells from getting a first down. I believe it was on third down. It's like 3rd down and 9 around there. And Wells used his legs, quick quarterback he is in particular. And he got out of bounds with 1 yard left. And Corey Couch hits him out of bounds, sends him flying, gets to 15 yards. Those are things you cannot do, all right? 17 penalties for 159 yards you cannot do. And the refs missed one because there was one play where James Williams picks up, I can't remember if it was a wide receiver or the running back, and throws him violently to the ground. He got flagged for that, I believe, in the Southern Miss game early on in the year. All right, causing 15. He does it again, all right, against this time Virginia Tech in a game that was a bit closer. You cannot get 17 penalties in a game, all right? It is not good for you to do that. You are not the 1990s Canes that in the Cotton Bowl got, I think it was 20 penalties, 15 personal fouls, and still won 46-3. Your defense is not that good. All right, I'm sorry, okay? You're not that good. Russell Maryland is not your leading D tackle, all right? You don't have Darren Smith or Michael Barrow or Jesse Armstead, at linebacker. You don't have that, all right? You can't afford those kind of penalties, all right? You're just not that good to do that. I'm sorry to tell you, whether it's in the offensive side of the ball or the defensive side of the ball. One of the main reasons why we didn't score 40 points against this team is because of stupid penalties. And that's very weird coming from a Mario Cristobal-led team. Mario Cristobal's teams are very, very disciplined. But that shows you the lack of depth we have in certain positions. Because when Couch made that play, when he hit that guy out of bounds that cost him 15 yards and put Virginia Tech in better field position, all right, Mario Cristobal told him something. I don't know if he yelled at him. I don't think he yelled at him at all, but he told him something. Last year, if you recall, which went viral, on social media, on YouTube or Facebook or Instagram and stuff like that, went viral when a wide receiver for Oregon, all right, got a first down, stood up, and decided to taunt his opponent, got 15 yards. Coach Cristobal went off. Okay, off. So Corey Couch was back on the field. Why? Because we just don't have the horses at the defensive back position, especially at cornerback. All right. That is why Corey Couch was not benched. That is why whether there's injuries or lack of depth, whatever the case may be, Corey Couch was not benched. James Williams was not benched because we just don't have the guys, especially on that side of the ball, whether it's with injuries, all right, or we just don't have the personnel. The bottom line is that you just can't do that. And that's why Virginia Tech was able to get back into the game. The penalties were a major problem, all right, a major problem in this game. Oddly enough, Miami was the least penalized team in the ACC coming into the VTech game, but being undisciplined, cocky, arrogant, disrespectful to your opponent, or impatient as well almost cost you that football game. And that would have basically brought up the pitchforks, all right? Let me tell you something. For as low as attendance might be to these games, the Hurricane fans are rabid, all right? And Miami Hurricanes fans do want to be able to cheer on their teams, their team in general, and we want them to be successful, all right? So that's the thing. You cannot be stupid, okay? Stupid. Use your brains. No BS. Okay, that was Coach Cristobal, and it's one of his players in the Texas A&M game. Use your brains. No BS. You cannot do that. You're not good enough to do that. You're able to get away with it against VTech. You're not going to get away with it next week against Duke, Florida State, Clemson, or any other ACC opponents we'll be facing. Georgia Tech even. You'll be able to get away with it. You will lose the Coastal. All right. And let me tell you just a little bit about the rest of the ACC. Next week, we're playing Duke. Duke almost beat North Carolina and put up a ton of points on them. All right. Put up over 30 points against North Carolina. Duke is a much better football team since Mike Elko took over. Okay. Not only is Duke better, Florida State's better, right? Actually, Florida State is favored, as I looked at the ESPN percentages, is favored to beat Miami, or might be favored to beat Miami, depending on how things go along the next couple of weeks. Georgia Tech has won more games since they fired their coach, Jeff Collins, right, as well. So the bottom line I'm trying to get at is that the ACC Coastal is not going to be a smooth ride for the Canes. All right. Oh, we have to worry about North Carolina. Nope. Teams have got Pittsburgh is still is a solid football team as well. They put up 300 yards rushing, I think, against North Carolina or against Virginia Tech. I forgot. Yeah, against Virginia Tech. So you're in a situation where you have to be disciplined. Or the Canes have got to be disciplined. And just letting you know, and just to let you know, Miami has not played a complete game this year. The only complete game they've played was against Bethune. And let's face it, it's Bethune. All right, it's Bethune-Cookman. All right. But against Southern Miss, nope. They did not play a complete game on offense. They rallied a bit more. They woke up a bit more in the third and fourth quarter. But I think it was like 10-7 at halftime, if I can recall. Not a complete game against Texas A&M. Definitely not against Middle Tennessee. You got yourselves beaten up in that football game. Not a complete game against North Carolina. It was your best offensive game despite the lack of running. Not a complete game. All right. And not a complete game against Virginia Tech. All right. You've got to play. Miami has not played a complete game. A game that you can say, man, you know what? That was a game. Miami really played a complete game. Nope. They did not do that. Okay. They did not do that. And Gaddis has got to run the ball a bit more. I keep saying that as a guy that wanted more of an air raid, I'm getting my air raid, but you have some balance. All right. Virginia Tech did not have a good run defense. You could have ran the ball a little bit. Dad Franklin did have some spurts, right? And Jay Knighton is a pretty solid running back. I know you're afraid of the fumbleitis maybe, or you just don't trust your running game to make the right play at the right time, but you got to utilize them, right? You got to utilize them because now you're becoming predictable now. Okay, well, we're going to attack your passing game, and that's exactly what VTech did in the second half. Okay, they focused more on the passing game, all right, because Miami neglected the run. So now you have to have that balance once again. Listen, all I want the Miami Hurricanes to do is just play fast. Okay, is just play fast. Play fast. That's it. Whether it's running the football or even passing the ball, I'm going to be consistent here. All right, you've got to play fast. Okay, that's all I'm going to say. All right, in regards to the Canes. Next week is not, even though the Canes are favored by 8 points, next week is not a gimme. All right, Duke is a much better football team. As a matter of fact, I think 8 points is too much. Because Duke is going to be, and Miami's whooped on Duke a couple times, last year and the year prior, but this is a very different Duke team. All right, this is a Duke team that's disciplined, well coached, and up to date on offense. All right, and they will give the Canes defense some fits. All right, even though I do think the Canes pass rush will affect Duke's passing game, but the bottom line is that I do think Duke will give the Canes much more fits than in the previous last couple of years when Miami has just stomped on them. All right. Okay, so that's it for my Canes coverage. Right, that's it for my Canes coverage. So now here comes the Miami Dolphin coverage. Right, so please enjoy as I transition to my next talking point. And boom, this is where we have the Miami Dolphins. Right, we have the Miami Dolphins now. I'm going over the coverage of what was a very disappointing loss to the Minnesota Vikings, as once again another quarterback from the Miami Dolphins, has to leave the game. This time, Skylar Thompson leaves the game early in the first quarter with a hand injury. Thompson in the game went 7 for 13 for 89 yards. Bridgewater comes in, all right, and has a pretty solid game with 23 receptions, 34 attempts, and 329 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, and 2 very poor interceptions in very critical situations in the game. The running game, again, for the Dolphins was non-existent, okay, as Raheem Mostert had the best performance, but nonetheless, as a team collectively, they only had 20 carries for 73 yards rushing, but receiving, whole different ball game. All right, Tyreek Hill had an amazing game, although he didn't get into the end zone. He was targeted 15 times. He had 12 catches for 177 yards. The cheetah still continues to eat upon his prey. All right, Jalen Waddle, 6 receptions, 129 yards. But Mike Gesicki had the best game of the season with 6 catches, all right, for 69 yards and two touchdowns, okay? The defense wasn't bad, right? Much criticism of the Dolphin defense has been laid out for the last 2 games. They only gave up 234 total yards in the game. They sacked Kirk Cousins 3 times However, Minnesota's defense was much better. Okay, it's not even an argument. Minnesota sacked Miami's quarterbacks 6 times, 5 on Bridgewater, 1 on Thompson. All right, forced 3 turnovers, 2 interceptions, and 1 costly fumble. Jalen Waddle was very much affected by that fumble. You could tell by the way his demeanor on the sideline, how much it bothered him. The Miami Dolphins were down 16-10 in the game, marching down the field, and it was a very costly fumble. And one of Bridgewater's interceptions came off the hands of Jalen Waddle as well. Then Bridgewater throws another interception. They did shut down the running game, except for Dalvin Cook's monstrous 53-yard run in the fourth quarter that pretty much sealed the deal for Minnesota. All right, the Miami Dolphins are struggling. That's a third straight loss. They're 3-3. Okay, and it's been quite a difficult situation. All right, now I want to say this. Okay, the 3 straight losses: the Bengals, okay, the defending AFC champion, the Jets, and now the Minnesota Vikings. The New York Jets are a better football team, right? They just defeated and laid a whooping on Green Bay. The Jets defense is much better. They do have a solid young staff with veterans, right? Guys like CJ Mosley, Gardner as a young guy, Quincy Williams as well. And they also have, LaMarcus Joyner as well, who was who played for the Rams in the Super Bowl and a former Florida State standout as well. So the Jets are better on defense, and the offense is picking up with guys like Breece Hall in general. And then you have, of course, those young receivers that they drafted. So the Jets are a much better football team. So they're no longer the stinky Jets, where I used to say last year on his podcast, they need to embrace the suck because they just suck. They no longer suck anymore, at least for the first half of the year. As what we're seeing right now, the New York Jets, who are 4-2 right now, all right, are a much better football team, or a bit improved, I would say, than people expected. So let's give the Jets a bit more credit. Even though I can't stand the Jets, I don't like the Jets. I don't like anything about the Jets. I still think they suck. I'm a Dolphin fan through and through. I can't stand them at all. I can't stand their stupid colors in green, and their annoying fans either. But the bottom line is, again, I am an honest host, and they are a much better football team, both defensively and offensively as well. And they do pose a threat to the Buffalo. They don't pose a threat, but they do pose a threat for that second spot, right? I don't think anyone's going to take the division from Buffalo. Buffalo is a well-oiled machine, both on offense and defense. All right. It'll be very hard for the Dolphins to take the mantle from the Bills, especially without quarterback Tua Tagovailoa. In particular, if he doesn't finish out the season or can't finish out the season or struggles afterward if they're coming back from injury. That we'll see, but retrospectively speaking, right, as well, we will see, kind of a bit of a battle for that second spot, I think, between the Dolphins eventually. The Patriots can't count them out either. The Dolphins, the Patriots, as well, and now the Jets. Okay. Be very honest with you. I know how the fan base feels. Some are pro Tua, some are anti Tua. I honestly don't know what Tua's future with the Dolphins is going to be, but I'm going to be very honest with you. We need Tua. We need Tua to come back. I'm happy he's coming back. For all the criticism about his arm, and I know I've talked about his arm. I've said he lacks arm strength. I said he's not Aaron Rodgers. I've done the Justin Herbert comparison. But the bottom line is we were 3-0 with Tua Tagovailoa. The offense looked like it was humming. It was much faster. It was efficient. He had 6 touchdowns in one game against a very tough Ravens team that on the road, he beat the Patriots as well. He beat, the Buffalo Bills. It was because of him. He might have even been concussed and he still won that game. The Miami Dolphins are a much better football team when Tua is under center. Not Bridgewater, not Thompson. All right, I'm sorry, okay? We were 3-0 with Tua. Our offense was the stuff people were talking about. Our passing game was the stuff people were talking about. Tua was one of the most efficient passers, was one of the touchdown leaders in the league. The bottom line is we do need Tua. All right. And I'm going to be very happy with the fact that Tua will be coming in next week to play the Pittsburgh Steelers. Okay. The Pittsburgh Steelers have struggled this year. And I think this is a good game for Tua to come back, get his bearings, in there and throw the football. But the offensive line has got to protect them. One of the main reasons why our backup quarterbacks have struggled is because of lack of protection. The Dolphins gave up 6 sacks today. You cannot do that. All right. You cannot do that. All right. It puts the quarterback in a situation where pocket awareness may come quicker than expected, and we need and routes have to develop if they need to develop for the ball to get there on time to be able to the receivers to make plays. The Dolphins have speed and playmakers. I'm not worried about our offense, all right, but I am worried about the protection. Armstead being out is a problem, but we need to protect better. That's the thing, okay? Tua cannot get his brains mangled up this whole year, all right? Okay, because we know more than likely he had a concussion against the Bills, even though they won that game because of Tua, because he still made a timely pass in the fourth quarter, to win that football game. And of course, we were horrified at the injury that he suffered against the Bengals, and the league should have done a better job of protecting him. I will say that. I will say that. But this week against this upcoming week on Sunday Night Football against the Steelers, it is going to be a time for Tua Tagovailoa in particular to show that he is the field general of this football team, and this team does need Tua. All right, I'm sorry for anybody that you gotta beat Mitch Trubisky. Kirk Cousins is a good quarterback. All right, Zach Wilson is coming into his own, and of course we know that Joe Burrow is Joe Burrow. He was he went to Super Bowl last year. But you gotta beat Mitch Trubisky. Okay, they were dying to get rid of him in Chicago, dying like they're packing his bags for him. All right, Bears fans were. So now he's in Pittsburgh and he's still struggling. So you gotta beat Mitch Trubisky. You gotta beat him, or Kenny Pickett, whoever the hell they're playing. This upcoming week. Kenny Pickett. He was the best of what this draft class had, but I don't think he's cut out. In general. So the bottom line is whoever it is, whether it's Trubisky or whether it's Kenny Pickett, the Dolphins need to win this football game. Okay. All right, ladies and gentlemen, if you like what you heard, please do not forget to like, share, and subscribe to 305 Sports now. Okay. Once again, I am Will. Be safe. God bless. See you soon.